What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So, to be honest, I didn't know if we'd ever get a chance to talk about Metal Gear or Metal Gear Solid again in Newswave after what happened with Survive, because that was ugly, and then the fallout between Kojima and Konami, that was ugly. But it turns out we may have some Metal Gear announcements coming up after a rating was made public pointing to the first two Metal Gear Solid games having a re-release. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens here just ahead of Tokyo Game Show, by the way. And a big rumor is starting to resurface again for the original Metal Gear Solid getting the full-on remake treatment. So a lot of things to go over with that. Also, it turns out Nintendo decided to leak a game, take it down, and then just say, yeah, you know what? Just release it, and they did, so we'll go over that as well. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit the like button, helps out a ton, and if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below. And we're gonna start today with Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, back on the original Xbox. Yeah, we're going a ways back here, but after, of course, the acquisition of Microsoft picking up Bethesda, as well as ZeniMax and all of their properties, there was this interesting podcast, Zoom call that they did, and it was Larry Herb, Phil Spencer, then we had Pete Hines, and Todd Howard, and something came up that I thought was kind of interesting. It had to do with them figuring out ways to get Morrowind to work on the original Xbox, which, while it was a powerful system, it was still impressive to see Morrowind actually run on a console, because it would not have worked on something like the GameCube, and it wouldn't have worked on the PS2 with what they were doing. It pushed that Xbox hard, but one of the ways they managed to make this work was kind of cool. Check this out here. This is something that Nebelian tweeted out, kind of summarizing it, saying Todd Howard reveals that one of the tricks to combat low memory on the original Xbox was to reboot the console without the player noticing. Now, according to Todd Howard, the way they did this is when you were on a load screen, the Xbox itself was able to continue putting up a still image while it did a soft reboot. So when that bar stopped and just sat there for a while, apparently that was just your original Xbox rebooting. And the idea here was to basically clear memory and be ready for what was loading in, whether you're going into a town or a new area. You don't really think about these things, and I didn't realize that at all. I just thought the thing took forever to load, right? Probably like you did. It's just strange to think of the corners they have to cut just to get something like Morrowind on the original Xbox. Also, if you were someone who missed out on that Animal Crossing themed Switch, because remember, they sold out really quick, and then scalpers had a field day with that one in particular. It was jumping up because the Switch was already hard to find, and then you take a limited release Animal Crossing themed Switch that's like the most popular game this year, you put that on eBay, it got up like $800 at times, right? It was bordering on $1,000 a few times I saw. It looks like they will be restocked. I don't know. I don't know either. Nintendo must have found like a couple of crates in the back, opened them, and there's like 50 or 60 of them in each crate, and they look down, there's like, like 30 crates or something, and they're like, oh, guess we're just releasing these again, because you can see images that Nintendo Everything, Go Nintendo started posting that were put up on places like Twitter, and yes, it looks like there are several of them here just waiting to be sold. Now, we also happen to see a post that Nintendo Australia made on Twitter that seems to be pointing to October 9th for these releasing back out there. I mean, this is good for anyone who missed out on it and maybe wants a new Switch. This could even make a good present for the holidays, right? Especially if you know someone who wants Animal Crossing and they're really into the franchise. They just haven't got the game for some reason yet. Just, I think, is pretty good. It's going to sell out very quickly, though, so you want to maybe make the rounds of some of the stores, see if they're already out there, and maybe put your name down for one, or just keep an eye out, I guess, the first week of October for Nintendo to put some sort of official statement out there when you can go pick it up. Pretty cool to see it released, though, for anyone who missed out on it. Oh, and there were some questions asked about the Game Awards and if they would still happen this year. Jeff Keighley kept saying, yeah, we're looking into it. We're going to figure out ways to make this work, because obviously right now this year, it's been difficult across all industries when it comes to remote work, trying to get people together for different things, especially when it comes to putting together a massive show like the Game Awards. It looks like it is still happening, though. This was tweeted out here. You can see it says, save the date. The Game Awards, Thursday, December 10th, live from Los Angeles, London, Tokyo. A multi-world of wonder awaits. So great news to see this. It's always fun looking forward to this event. I know there's a bunch of awards that we all, look forward to, like the Game of the Year, right? That's a big one. But a lot of us also tune in to see the really cool announcements that take place here, and there have been some really good ones. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes down. I assume it's going to be similar to what happened at Gamescom, where it'll kind of be Jeff, just, on like stage, and they used Unreal for the backdrop there. That was kind of neat, maybe able to do that here too. but I guess he'll just kind of hang out with the microphone, talk to people that are remote, and they'll just put on a show that way. And really, as long as we see some cool announcements, some good music, because they've been really kicking that up every year as well, and then a proper Game of the Year winner, I think it'll just be a fun show overall. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo leaking a game and then releasing it like 24 hours later. So on their own website, people were scrolling through the Nintendo store and the website they have listed for several different games, of course, that you could pick up on the Switch. And people started to notice that there was a game that was there for the Switch that wasn't announced. They hadn't heard of it before, and Wario64 managed to grab a screenshot of it before it was pulled down, and that is Kirby Fighters 2 for $19.99 on the Switch. And this appears to be, I guess, a sequel to Kirby Fighters 1 that was on the 3DS. I didn't really play it much, but from what I have seen, it appears to be a Kirby fighting game. So, okay, that's kind of a neat idea, right? And people seem to enjoy it. I didn't see a lot of people talk about it though afterwards. Like, this seemed to be something that snuck up on a lot of people because they went, oh, there was a first one, and they go back and look. But it's Kirby. I know there's a lot of Kirby fans out there, so this is pretty cool because then later on, actually last night, they did announce the game. They put out this full trailer here. Kirby Fighters 2 is now live. They just dropped it and put it out there for everyone to go pick up. And on Twitter, they also said a brand new Kirby game is available now. Choose from a cast of Kirby's most iconic copy abilities and duke it out to be the last Kirby standing in Kirby Fighters 2. And then over on the product page, they do describe several different modes of play, which of course includes using single Joy-Con, so you can have up to 4 people playing on the same screen. You can also do local mode where each person has their own Switch and copy of the game so they can all play in the same room that way as well. And then of course, you can play online as long as you have the Nintendo Online membership. It is, for the most part, yes, a Kirby fighting game. Looks better here than the footage I saw on the 3DS, as we would expect. And it looks like they also have a new costume or a new ability, which is Wrestler, which lets you use Launcher Lariat to launch an enemy and then fly and grab to catch it in midair, as they describe on their own website. I don't know, it's just, I guess, a cool Kirby game to throw out there. There was no real build up to it other than them accidentally leaking it. That actually kind of worked. Like, what if Nintendo just accidentally, quote unquote, leaked their games and then people pick it up and it hits the news that way and people get excited? I did see, unfortunately, some wondering, oh, this means that there is a Nintendo Direct Mini coming up and they're going to announce some more first-party stuff. No, sometimes Nintendo, as we have seen, just likes to drop stuff. There's like, oh yeah, here we go. Especially this year, because again, the remote work and the schedule's in flux. If it's ready to go like this, yeah, all right, we'll throw it. It's certainly not like it's not a retail release, nothing like that. $19.99, digital only. It's something they just wanted to put out there just to, again, fill in some gaps as they go along this holiday. I mean, you never know what Nintendo has up their sleeve. This was certainly a surprise for a lot of people. Next up, let's talk about Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, as well as a possible remake for the first Metal Gear Solid. Let's go over to Gamatsu, where they spotted the rating here, and it says Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance, and Konami Collector's Series Castlevania and Contra rated for PC in Taiwan. Now, that's a lot of ratings, which could mean a number of things. I would assume a lot of these are getting ready to be announced at Tokyo Game Show, which should have already started by the time you're seeing this video here, because I know Microsoft was going to be going fairly early in the morning. If you're in the US, it would have been like 6 a.m. Eastern or something. They were going to start and just kick off Tokyo Game Show. And from there, we have several days of announcements and live streams and all this. But if you don't know, Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, it was on PC. That's what this appears to be. It appears to be the versions that were on PC back then. I actually remember getting Metal Gear Solid 2 on my PC and it didn't work because I didn't have a strong enough video card for it and all this, and that was annoying, but that's the way it was back then when you didn't have necessarily, I guess, the YouTube videos and stuff you have now where you can look up, can my video card run this thing? We just kind of guessed and hoped at times, right? But having Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 be this PC re-release, I don't think there's gonna be a lot of work done to it. It's Konami. I mean, should I even really expect much? No, not really. If it was a pachinko machine, they would have done like a full remake. They'd have put lights all over the thing. And I think this is going to be a pretty quick port job to the PC, allowing them to pretty much just drop it on Steam and sell a ton of copies. But I don't really care as much because I'm happy to see that Metal Gear Solid is being recognized again. Maybe Konami really does have some big plan kind of brewing in the background. We've heard about, of course, the situation with Silent Hill. Apparently there is some sort of reboot, remake thing in the works now between Sony and Konami. But what if there really was that Metal Gear Solid remake. What if that actually happened? Because that's coming back, apparently. That rumor is sprouting back up. And we had talked about this before because I had also heard, as well as several other people, that there was at least some talks around Metal Gear Solid getting a remake, and then it disappeared. I thought, it's Konami. Maybe they thought, we're going to remake a Pachinko machine or something, right? Well, take a look at this. It does look like over on Red Gaming Tech, the YouTube channel, is bringing up the idea that this is a thing and that it is coming back and that their source is very, very good on this topic. And because I have heard about this before, I'm not inclined to just immediately say, yeah, no, that's not happening. Even though it sounds crazy because it's Konami, if Sony came in and was able to do Silent Hill, what's stopping them from talking about something like Metal Gear Solid getting a remake as a PS5 exclusive? We heard that Sony is doing different timed exclusives, even just straight up development, funding. And that seems to be something that's happening. Again, rumored with Silent Hill. It wouldn't shock me if Metal Gear Solid actually went beyond just talking at the table and them starting to develop it. And that's exciting. I know we have Twin Snakes, but even that's kind of old now. I would love to see Metal Gear Solid, what it could look like on the PlayStation 5 if they do it correctly. I don't need another Metal Gear Survive situation. I just need Metal Gear Solid redone, current technology on the PlayStation 5 and all of this. Come on. You'd have to buy a PS5 then. Unfortunately, it's hard to say whenever Metal Gear Solid remake would even be shown, any of that, even Silent Hill, which keeps eluding people, thinking it's going to be at some Sony show and it just doesn't show up. But I can say, I think that the Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 PC ports most likely will be announced in the next day or two at Tokyo Game Show. So at least that's something to look forward to there. Even if they're basic ports, it's still something happening with Metal Gear Solid, right? Next up, let's talk about a Kickstarter. And even though I generally don't get into any crowdfunding projects that haven't been funded at all, because who knows what's gonna happen there. I'm supposed to get an Atari VCS this year, right? Haven't heard anything about that. Now it was Atari who raised millions of dollars. But I wanted to point this one out right here. This is called the Warrior 64 console. It's a kit or it's the full system. So you can just get a DIY kit that allows you to turn your Nintendo 64 system, according to them, by soldering wires. So we'll see how difficult that is. Maybe I'll try to get one of these and allow it to then have HDMI out. Now the quality is also in question, so hopefully someone can review this to see if it's any good, because otherwise we had the Ultra HDMI and that has become limited to non-existent now, and it's super expensive just to find that. And the install process for that is kind of a pain, to be honest there. Or you can just get an entire system. And I assume they're just taking Nintendo 64s and repurposing them with this new shell that I'm a little torn on with that. I still like the classic Nintendo 64 look, but they're just repurposing them with a new, it looks like gamepad and all of that, HDMI out, and then sending them out. And it looks like if you just want the kit, it's only $100. And that's a little surprising because the Ultra HDMI is so expensive. It's not bad to see that, right? But apparently if you want the entire system, it's $150. And even that is a little surprising. An entire Nintendo 64 console with HDMI out already installed. Now, according to their Kickstarter page, this is Intech Gaming that is doing this. They say they were founded in the USA, is dedicated and providing the best gaming products and services to all our fans. They are taking orders using the Hong Kong dollar though, so that seems a little strange, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they're operating out of Hong Kong and they're in the US as well. That's what I mean. Okay, it's Kickstarter. Let's see how this goes. Let's see if it gets funded. Maybe they'll if they were smart, they would send a review unit out for someone online somewhere, YouTube, whatever, website, to take a look at it to at least show that it functions. Because right now we're getting a lot of really cool stuff here at good prices, but we don't even know if it's real. So we'll see, but keep an eye on this one, and hopefully there is a legitimate way to do HDMI on your 64 because that Ultra HDMI has pretty much disappeared. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Bravely Default 2. Of course, this was revealed to us at the last Game Awards, then we had a demo a few months later, and it was great to be able to play the game, give some feedback to Square so they could kind of change a few things, and now it looks like we might be getting a release date pretty soon because it was rated in Australia. Now it got an M rating, I guess that's mature over there. I don't know how that's going to correlate to what rating it gets in for example, PEGI or in the ESRB, anything like that. Hard to say. I know Australia typically will give a higher age rating to certain games. We're a little more strict there. But the point here is it has been rated, which means it's at least content complete to where they're able to show the game for a rating. This is good news, and I'm hoping that does mean that it makes the 2020 year. So like maybe it comes out at the end of November, maybe they just make it in like the first week or so of December, but I think Bravely Default 2 coming out this year would be great, and I'm kind of expecting it now. Worst case, if it's been rated, it'll be out like January or February, I think at the latest. So good news there. The fact that we had a full demo we could download and play, it was kind of telling as to how far along they were. And I do like that Square continues to do that because I think their games do get legitimate feedback that improves them. So hey, Bravely Default 2, keep an eye on Tokyo Game Show. I think Tokyo Game Show is going to be a little better than people are anticipating right now, just from seeing some of these ratings. So exciting stuff to see going up to this weekend. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Jeffrey saying, I wonder if Microsoft is eventually going to pull their games from Steam. Their mindset may be, why are we going to pay Valve 30% when we have our own virtual store? So I think they're putting it on Steam for a few things. One, it's good advertising for their IPs, right? Like a lot of times Steam will just plaster up like Halo right on the front page of Steam. And like so many people would see that, of course. And in the future, sure, we could see Microsoft not put their games on Steam, but that's like, I think it's like a distant future because they are still working to drive people to their overall franchises to have them rely on them so that they can bring them in the Game Pass. If they were smart, they would just put advertising in every single one of their games right at the start when the credits are going and saying you can play it on Game Pass or something, right? Just some sort of advertising. So even if it's on Steam and you're selling to someone on Steam, you're also telling them about Game Pass. And I think that's one of the big things they are also thinking. And then of course, you know, money. A lot of people go on Steam, they prefer Steam. So for now, Microsoft says, well, we'll at least take advantage of that market on an open platform with PC, but we'll see as time goes on and as those Game Pass subscriptions continue to build, if they stick around. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether there's Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 seeing, I guess, just a re-release for the PC, a port so that it'll work on current hardware. Are you excited for the idea of being able to max out the original Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2 on your RTX 3080 and try to hit like 1,000 something frames per second? Let me know about that down below. And then what about a remake of Metal Gear Solid 1? Would you buy a PlayStation 5 if you saw that? Like immediately, like, well, I gotta get one now. And then what do you think about Bravely Default 2? Is it coming out this year? And did you already grab Kirby Fighters 2? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.